You probably felt it before. The growing urge to pull back, to stop explaining, to keep your emotions to yourself, not out of pride, but preservation. People say you've changed, that you've grown distant or cold. But what they don't understand is that your silence isn't emptiness, it's protection. You've seen what happens when you wear your heart too openly. The wrong people grab at it, twist it, manipulate it. And after enough of that, a shift happens. You stop giving people the map to your soul. You stop volunteering your energy to anyone who simply asks. And yet this transformation, from open to composed, from accessible to reserved, gets misunderstood. Carl Jung called it the emergence of the shadow, the part of ourselves we repress to survive society's demands. For deep thinkers and sensitive individuals, this repression begins as a strategy, a way to protect their inner world. But over time, it can become a mask that hides not just our pain, but our power. So how do you become untouchable without turning cold? How do you stop being prey without losing the very soul that makes you human? The answer lies in the delicate dance between containment and connection, between knowing who you are, deeply and unshakably, and choosing when, where, and with whom to share that truth. In Jung's framework, most people spend their lives trying to be liked. They develop a persona, a social mask that earns approval, fits the mold, blends in. But the more you invest in your persona, the more disconnected you become from your true self. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You nod in conversations that drain you, and slowly you vanish. Until one day something inside you breaks, not in a destructive way, but in a freeing one. You realize that being agreeable, open, and always available hasn't protected you. It's exposed you. People didn't respect your kindness. They mistook it for weakness. And so, you decide to stop bleeding in front of those who would never offer a bandage. This is the moment you begin stepping into the self, Jung's term for the integrated personality. The version of you that is no longer fragmented by external roles or emotional dependency. You don't stop feeling. You don't become cold. You simply withdraw your energy from places it was never honored. You stop oversharing, not because you lack depth, but because you've learned that depth must be earned. You stop chasing connection, not because you hate people, but because you value peace. You stop explaining yourself not out of arrogance, but because real alignment never requires convincing. This shift is powerful, but it's also dangerous, not to others, but to yourself. Because if you're not careful, what begins as discernment can harden into detachment. The wall you built to protect your soul can turn into a prison that isolates it. Jung warned against this. He believed that withdrawal is necessary but not permanent. Solitude is the womb of transformation, but not its final form. The goal is not to become cold but centered, to engage with the world not from a place of emotional hunger, but of inner abundance. To get there, you have to stop reacting. You have to stop leaking energy every time someone pokes at your wounds. People will project their insecurities onto you. They'll call your peace arrogance, your focus selfish, your standards too high. That's okay. Let them. You don't need to explain to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your presence, calm, grounded, unapologetic, is explanation enough. This is what it means to be untouchable. Not immune to pain, but immune to manipulation. Not emotionless, but emotionally sovereign. You've cried, you've bled, you've healed. And now, you know who you are. That's the scariest thing you can be in a world built on noise. Someone who no longer needs to perform. If you've ever wondered why some people always seem to provoke you, push your buttons, stir your emotions, catch you off guard, it's not random, it's psychological. And more importantly, it's an opportunity. Jung believed that the outer world often mirrors the inner one. What irritates you in others can point towards something unresolved in yourself. But here's where things get twisted. Manipulators don't just stumble into your wounds. They sense them. You see, when you don't fully understand your emotional patterns, other people will control them for you. That's how the untouchable become reactive, not through force, but through familiarity. A slight comment, a judgmental look, a passive-aggressive tone. It's not about what's said, but what it taps into. Old stories, buried insecurities, echoes of past wounds. And so you find yourself over-explaining, defending, justifying, seeking closure from people who have no intention of understanding you. That's not strength. That's spiritual leakage. Jung's solution wasn't to avoid conflict or repress emotion. His method was shadow integration, the radical act of owning every part of yourself, especially the ones that feel unacceptable. What makes you reactive? Is it the feeling of being dismissed, controlled, rejected? The deeper you go into these patterns, the more power you regain. Because when you understand why something triggers you, you remove its leverage. This is the difference between being untouchable and being numb. The numb person avoids. They build walls. They shut down emotionally. But inside, they're still fragile because the wound is still running the show. The untouchable person doesn't avoid. They absorb, reflect, and stay grounded. They remain open without being invaded. That's a completely different level of mastery. You don't get there by pretending nothing bothers you. You get there by understanding why it ever did. This requires deep self-honesty. Jung called it the process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished, but complete, with nothing left in the unconscious that can be used against you. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to ghosts, words that remind them of past pain, faces that resemble old threats. They're not responding to the moment. They're replaying unresolved scripts. But when you do the work, the moment becomes clear. You stop giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. You stop seeking validation from the ones who once withheld it. You stop needing others to fix what you've already faced. This is how you become unshakable, not by closing your heart, but by becoming its fiercest protector. You learn to say no without guilt, to walk away without over-explaining, to be misunderstood without chasing clarity. And in doing so, you reclaim something rare, emotional freedom. It doesn't mean you'll never be hurt. It means the hurt won't own you. That's the power Jung pointed to. The ability to hold tension without collapsing, to engage without absorbing, to feel without fragmenting. Your pain isn't weakness. It's unintegrated power. The more you bring it into the light, the less others can use it to control you. And that's the paradox. The more vulnerable you are with yourself, the less vulnerable you are to the world. You won't need to fake strength. You'll become it. Most people think power is about what you do, how you respond, what you say, the moves you make. But real power is subtler than that. It's about what you don't give away. Carl Jung understood that inner containment, your ability to hold emotion without immediately reacting, is one of the rarest and most misunderstood strengths. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can post a clap back, send a long message, or walk away mid-conversation. But the person who can sit with their anger, their pain, their urge to strike back, and choose not to, that person is untouchable in the deepest sense. Containment isn't repression. It's not about shoving your feelings into a corner and pretending they're not there. It's the opposite. You fully feel them, but you choose not to act impulsively on them. You become a furnace. The emotion is fuel, but the fire burns inward, not outward. It transforms you instead of scorching the world around you. This is the heart of Jung's concept of the transcendent function, the process of holding opposite tensions within yourself until something higher emerges. The ego wants to react. The shadow wants to lash out, but the self waits, watches, endures. And in that stillness, a third force appears: clarity. The untouchable aren't the ones who never feel. They're the ones who feel so deeply they can no longer be manipulated by emotion. Someone insults you, you don't flinch. You know it's not about you. It's a projection. Someone ignores you, you don't chase. You faced your abandonment wounds. Someone tries to provoke you. You stay centered because you've made peace with the chaos within. This doesn't make you robotic, it makes you responsible. Because in that space between emotion and reaction, you reclaim authorship over your life. Most people are just echo chambers. They reflect whatever is thrown at them, smile at them, they smile back, hurt them, and they strike. Praise them, they chase more, criticize them, and they crumble. But when you develop containment, you become more than a reaction. You become a presence. And this is what makes others uncomfortable. Not because you're cold, but because they can't figure you out. You're not following the scripts. You don't explain yourself unnecessarily. You don't overshare. You listen more than you speak. And when you speak, it lands. Your energy becomes rare, and rare energy is always misunderstood at first. But you'll come to see that mystery isn't loneliness, it's leverage. The less predictable you are, the less controllable you are. And the less you need from others emotionally, the more powerful your interactions become. Because now, when you give someone your time, your attention, your openness, it's not a default setting. It's a conscious choice. You're no longer moving from lack, you're moving from fullness. This is the paradox of inner containment. The more emotion you hold with awareness, the more power you gain. Not over others, but over yourself. And that self-mastery radiates. It speaks louder than dominance. It commands more than aggression. Jung believed that integration was the path to freedom. And to integrate, you must stop leaking. You must stop handing your power over to every provocation, every emotional twitch, every person who reminds you of your past pain. You must become the vessel, not the wave. There's a reason so few people feel peace anymore. They're always chasing control of outcomes, control of people, control of how they're perceived. But Carl Jung understood something essential. You don't need to control the world. You just need to center yourself inside it. When you're calm in a chaotic room, people notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're not fighting for space. Your presence fills it without trying. But getting there? That takes serious internal work. Most people build identities around overreaction. It's how they feel alive, offended by every comment, crushed by every rejection, validated by every compliment. They don't realize their nervous system is being hijacked, not by others, but by themselves. And so they walk through life like emotional tuning forks, vibrating with every tone in the environment. They think they're connected, but they're really just exposed. This is where Jung's concept of individuation becomes practical. Individuation isn't some abstract spiritual idea. It's the daily act of reclaiming your psychological territory, of drawing boundaries not just with people, but with thoughts, with triggers, with emotional patterns that once dictated who you were allowed to be. You begin to realize not every emotion needs a response. Not every thought deserves airtime. Not every relationship requires closure. You learn to pause. You learn to breathe. You learn to sit in discomfort without scrambling for distraction. And that's where the alchemy begins. Because in that stillness, you discover a version of yourself that doesn't flinch, that doesn't perform, that doesn't beg to be understood. You stop grasping and start observing. You no longer identify with every passing fear or spike of anxiety. You watch it like a wave. You feel it, sure, but you don't drown in it. And that shift, that's the essence of becoming untouchable. Not because nothing touches you, but because nothing owns you. You're not chasing peace anymore. You are the peace. And that presence disarms people. Because they expect drama. They expect reactions. They expect you to dance when they poke you. But instead, you offer silence. And silence is power. It's uncomfortable for those who feed off chaos. It forces reflection. It creates space. And in that space, the real dynamics of a relationship are revealed. You'll see who respects your presence and who is only addicted to your reactions. You'll see who honors your boundaries and who only loved your emotional availability. You'll see who comes closer when you're calm, and who disappears when they can't trigger you anymore. That's why this journey isn't just about self-defense, it's about self-selection. The calmer you become, the more clearly people reveal themselves. You won't need to guess. Their energy will speak before their words do. And here's the unexpected reward. The more you contain yourself, the more authentic connections you attract. Not because you're less emotional, but because your emotions are finally yours. Not manipulated, not outsourced, not broadcasted for validation. You've built a container strong enough to hold your soul, and in a world of chronic reactivity, that's a magnetic force. So if you feel yourself becoming quiet, let it happen. If you feel the urge to speak less, to observe more, to engage only with those who feel safe, trust it. That's not detachment, that's evolution. There comes a moment in the journey when silence is no longer a defense. It's a declaration, a quiet, unwavering statement that says, I've reclaimed myself. By now, you've stopped oversharing. You've stopped defending your decisions to people who never had your best interests at heart. You no longer seek approval for choosing peace over popularity. And the world doesn't quite know what to do with that. But Jung would say this is exactly where transformation begins. You've moved beyond the persona, the social mask you wore to survive, and you've stopped projecting the shadow that denied part of yourself that once lashed out or shut down when triggered. What's left now is something rare, the self, not perfect, not immune, but integrated. This is the ultimate form of untouchability, not because you're above emotion, but because you've built a structure inside yourself that can hold it all. You've faced your fear of being alone. You've stared into the mirror of your insecurities without flinching. And most importantly, you've stopped begging the world to validate your worth. And yet, you're not cold. You still care, you still love, but your love is no longer a sacrifice. It's not given as proof of your value. It's not offered recklessly to those who haven't earned it. You've turned inward, not to escape the world, but to re-enter it on your own terms. That's what most people don't understand. The untouchable person isn't disconnected. They're just no longer addicted to chaos. They found something more compelling than drama, inner alignment. This doesn't make you better than others. It makes you clearer about what drains you, what nourishes you, and where your energy actually belongs. You'll stop fighting to be understood. You'll stop explaining your choices to those committed to misunderstanding you. And the beauty of it all? You won't feel the need to retaliate. You won't burn bridges out of bitterness. You'll just exit quietly, not with a scream, with stillness. Because untouchability is not loud. It doesn't posture. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need an audience. It simply walks away from what no longer resonates and keeps walking. And as you do, something powerful happens. People begin to feel your absence more than they ever respected your presence. They start to sense that your peace is not to be disturbed, that your boundaries are not negotiable, that your silence is not submission, it's selection. You've become the kind of person who can hold pain without passing it on, who can face rejection without internal collapse, who can experience life fully without being consumed by it. That's not emotional coldness, that's maturity. And it's exactly what Jung meant when he spoke about the individuated human being, someone who has integrated all their parts and stands, not in perfection, but in wholeness. So no, don't become cold. Don't shut down. Don't numb your heart to protect it. Become disciplined in your openness. Become intentional in your kindness. And become so rooted in who you are that no rejection, betrayal, or misunderstanding can shake you loose from your core. That is what it means to be untouchable. And when the world tries to provoke you, confuse you, diminish you, let them. Smile, breathe, and walk away. You've already won the battle that matters most, the one within yourself.